is 8:40. I usually do not go in on a Friday because Friday is usually like a calm day, but one of the nurses is on PTO, and I decided to help her out by going to go see her patient today. So that is what I am doing. So come along with me. Hey y'all, so I am back in the car about to head back home. I got my handy dandy York peppermint patty, my pick-me-up. Today was pretty simple, no issues. As I mentioned, I'm covering a nurse who is on PTO, and this research study doesn't require too much, so it was just me seeing the patient, asking the patient questions, and then they also did lab today, so then I'll give the okay to treat on Monday when the patient comes back to receive their treatment. But yeah, today was pretty light day, no issues. So I'm gonna head home, and then I'm going to answer some questions that I've gotten via TikTok, and somebody also commented on YouTube asking questions, so I am definitely going to respond to those questions and give you guys all the in and outs as much as I can. All right, so I will see you guys in a bit. Hey y'all, so I changed into my PJs as soon as I got home, so I'm sorry. But I know that there have been people on TikTok, and then I had one person comment on like how to get into research and like what are like the requirements and qualifications and stuff like that. So I decided to talk about it. But I'm gonna start out with like my background. So I became a nurse in 2023, I think. Yes, 2023. Graduated in 2022, did a accelerated Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and graduated in 2022 and became a nurse in 2023. But before I even graduated, my school actually did like a internship, like a practicum thing. I remember going to one of my professors, who happened to be the dean at the time, and I was just like, is there gonna be any opportunities for like oncology nursing and stuff like that? Because that's actually what I wanna do. I wanna become an oncology nurse. And she said that there's something in the works and stuff like that, that hopefully in the coming weeks or so, something will come out where we'd apply and then see if we get in. So lo and behold, the oncology research internship opened up, and I applied along with other students, I guess, and only three of us were accepted into the research internship. So I did that for about 3 months, up until, was it up until graduation? I don't remember, but I do know, yes, I think it was up until graduation. I did a oncology research internship where I was just shadowing the program manager at the time and going over protocols, going over the criterias, going over like adverse events and like side effects, and then going with her to visits and stuff like that, to see the patient and to see how the patient is doing, how they're tolerating treatment, whether there are any deviations and all that stuff. So like I was like really in it for those 3 months. And I also had like a class, so I'd go to these clinicals and also have a class with 2 different professors where they present and go over like different things you can see during research and like the terminology and stuff like that. At the time, it was like a whole nother language. I did not understand a single thing. So I did, along with that, I also did a clinicals at an infusion suite. So I did that as well. And I was just like, I think I'm gonna apply to be an infusion nurse, because why not? It's the I don't want to say it's the easy way to get into oncology, but it seemed like a right fit for me and my personality. I'm not into the rah. I'm not into the fast pace, even though infusion, I have learned, is fast paced. But I messaged the manager at the infusion suite, and I was just like, I'm going to graduate in December, and I want to work at the infusion suite. She was like, no problem. Once you pass your NCLEX, there's a job waiting for you, pretty much. So I passed my NCLEX and I started working at an infusion suite. I did that for 1.5 years. And during that time, I was also working with research patients here and there. So that also gave me some exposure, but it also helped me get familiar with the terminology of stuff. Like if a patient is on cycle 1, day 1, I also got familiar with the treatments and like the drugs and stuff like that, and how the drugs work, and when to administer the drugs. Like I was familiar with the workflow, so that helped me out a little bit. So after I worked after I worked in infusion for 1.5 years, I ended up having to relocate to Charlotte. So I became a chemo coordinator. And as a chemo coordinator, I kind of like was educating patients on chemo treatment and just helping them kind of connect the dots for them in a way. I did that for 1 year, and that's when I got into clinical research. Guys, when I tell you I applied, so when I got the chemo coordinator position, it was a good job, but I knew that it wasn't something that I wanted to do long term. So after like 6 months in that job, I was applying for clinical research positions. I was applying to things that fell along those lines of clinical research. And when I tell you I got rejected so many times, like, I thought my experience was enough. I thought having a research internship, working in infusion, and like working as a chemo coordinator, being familiar with the drugs and all that, I thought that was enough to get me into clinical research. But it seems that it was not the case, because I applied everywhere and nobody would accept my application. Everybody was rejecting me. Like, at a certain point while at work, I ran to the bathroom to go and cry my eyes out because I was just so tired. The jobs that I thought I had, I did not have. Like, I thought the interview went well and I'm like, oh, they're definitely gonna call me. Nope. I get an email like 2 days later saying after careful consideration. And then my last straw was I applied to a clinical research position at my job. Most of the places that I applied to was actually at my job. So can you imagine being rejected at your job? Like, what? But most of the places that I applied to were at my the company that I work for. So my last straw was when I applied for this position, and man, I thought I had that job, and like, it was a good interview and I felt like I did really well. And the person who interviewed me, it seemed like they actually liked me and was willing to give me the job on the spot. No, that was not the case. Ended up getting rejected for that one. And the person was nice enough to send me an email and tell me how, like, I am qualified for the job and that there's really nothing wrong at all. Pretty much the synopsis of the email was that there's nothing wrong at all, that I'm qualified for the job. And she had a bunch of high praises for me and stuff like that, which I appreciated, but it did not help in that moment because I applied and kept getting rejected. Until, again, another position opened and I applied for that, and glory to God, I was able to get it. So one thing I learned during this entire hiring process and stuff like that is that people are looking for you being team oriented, you being organized. Like, I don't want to be cliche and whatnot, so I'm trying my hardest to like gather my thoughts, but like, the things that I noticed that they are looking for are people who understand data integrity, understand that the data is important. That's how you're able to know whether the drug or the trial is working or not working. And then also understanding how to read protocols and stuff like that, understanding what CTCAE is, which is like a grading system for adverse events, side effects, and stuff like that. So if somebody is experiencing diarrhea, being able to know the grading system, going back to the CTCAE to see, okay, is it a grade 1? Is it a grade 2? Is it a grade 3? So trying to incorporate that into the interview questions that they're asking, like if they ask you about like, I don't even know what question that they could ask, guys. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but I feel like tailor your resume to what a research coordinator is. So if the job description is talking about data coordination. Tailor your resume to show that you can do data coordination. And also in the interview, talk about that. Talk about the data coordination part. If the job listing mentions protocols, adhering to like protocols and like communicating with sponsors, talk about how you're able to connect the dots easily. Talk about how you're able to communicate with different kinds of people within the team. So being able to communicate with the doctor, being able to communicate with the sponsors, being able to communicate with the patient, being able to communicate with lab, pharmacy. Talk about how you are like you're open and you're willing and you can communicate with different people within the organization to help the patient get what they need and safely. So one big thing that people are looking for is safety. Make sure you mention patient safety, because that is the most important thing. It is literally the highest thing, patient safety. Another thing is you can bring up like FDA and IRB, following those guidelines and stuff like that. What else? I'm trying to think what else you can like bring up. I just like overall, I think tailoring your resume to what a clinical coordinator does, tailoring it to that, and also in the interview when they are asking you questions, always relate it back to research. So always related back to patient safety, always related back to making sure you're monitoring for adverse events, making sure you're monitoring for side effects, always bring it back to communication, always bring it back to reading stuff, rereading stuff, making sure you're adhering to the protocol. And like if there's a deviation, if a patient doesn't come in for a visit, what are you going to do? How are you gonna make sure that it doesn't happen again? All that stuff. That's what they're looking for. But I would say getting into research is hard, but with persistence, you can do it if it's something that you're meant to be doing, if it's something that you want to do. And I think it is possible. It is not oversaturated. We always need research coordinators, research nurses. Literally a nurse is leaving our CTO, they're leaving. So a position is opening up soon. So like literally there's always room, and also there's always room to grow. So you don't even have to just stay in clinical research, like a clinical research coordinator role. You can move on to like quality, regulatory. You can move on to like consulting. You can move on to starting study startup operations, operational management. There's so many opportunities in clinical research. So I don't want you guys to box yourselves into just one role. There are multiple roles within clinical research. And this is just for oncology. I don't know what they do in like for example, cardiology clinical trials, or like what else? Pediatric clinic. I don't know what they do, but this is specifically for oncology research, because that is where I work. That's what I work in. That is my passion. Now, day-to-day work schedule. So usually how it works where I work, we have a list of patients. We're assigned a list of patients, and it's either we have a new patient that we have to screen to see if they're eligible, or we have patients that have already been screened, already on the trial, and we're just following up with them throughout their visits and stuff like that. So for example, if it's a patient that is already on the trial, I am planning for their visit probably a week in advance, to send out the needed requirements to the clinic, to the pharmacy and all that stuff. Because if the drug is investigational, our investigational pharmacy has to has to know which drug, the dosing and all that stuff. So we have to send that like in advance, so they're prepared for the visit when the visit does come. So I'm preparing a week in advance, and then the day of the visit, it's just me going to go see the patient with the provider sometimes, and sometimes I go to see the patient by myself without the provider, and then the provider could see them afterwards or whatever. Also, I can also see the patient, not see, but also contact the patient remotely sometimes if the trial allows. I can contact the patient remotely just to follow up and see how they're doing. And usually it could vary, the amount of patients you see could vary from 1 to 2 to 3, depending on your schedule and your workload. And then after I'm done seeing the patient will go to infusion. And then I am doing source documentation. And I think I explained source documentation, whether in this video or another video, but source documentation is pretty much documenting everything that could be used as source. So like vital signs, labs, the doctor's note saying that they saw the patient, noting their what is it that I forgot the word that I'm looking for, but just having the MD note available, having my note available. So I also have to write a note saying that I saw the patient and this happened and all that stuff, whether there were changes made to the adverse event log or changes made to the concomitant log and stuff like that. So that's also what I have to do, is if the patient has changed like their drugs or using different medications, I have to update their comment logs. If the patient has like has experienced some certain side effects, I have to update that as well, depending on the trial as well, because some trials only want side effects reported that's pertaining to the drug. If it's not pertaining to the drug, then you do not have to document it. So I'm also documenting that. That's also considered source. Now I'm also documenting the infusion note, the infusion report as well. So it shows that the drug was administered at this time and it ended at this time. Fluids started at this time and the fluids ended at this time, and observation was completed and all that stuff. So it's a bunch of stuff that goes into source documentation. And then after that's done, that's pretty much it. No, I'm lying. So while the patient goes to infusion and I'm doing source documentation, I'm also looking at the patient's labs. So the patient cannot get treated unless we give the okay to treat. So I'm pretty much multitasking, going back and forth between screens, trying to make sure I'm uploading things that need to be uploaded, but I'm also looking at the patient's labs to make sure everything's looking good, so I'm not holding the infusion nurse back from treating the patient. So if the labs look okay, then I give the okay to treat and the patient gets treated and stuff like that, and I document that as well. And then that's that. There's more into the day-to-day, but I'm just giving you guys a little bit of what happens, a little bit of the documentation process and stuff like that. And that is pretty much it, I think. I have criteria and certification. So honestly, I don't think you need a certification per se in order to get into clinical research. I know somebody who, yes, they're a nurse, but didn't work in oncology, nor did they have research experience, but they have the job. So I don't think you need certifications in order to get into clinical research, honestly. Yes, we have people on our staff that have a CCRP or a CCRC certification, and maybe that helped them get in. It can. I mean, it doesn't hurt to try. But I also think you need like experience to get those certifications. So I don't know the back end in that way. And I do believe there are some people who have like a biology degree that was able to get into clinical research. I think I would say about 60% of people in clinical research have a biology degree. I don't know if they had plans of going to medical school and decided not to, and then stumbled upon clinical research and decided that this is the path that they wanted to take. But I don't think there's anything that a person really needs in order to get into clinical research. I do think your experience speaks volume. So if you can connect the dots with your experience and clinical research, I think that sets you above a lot of people. And if you are team oriented, that is a plus sign as well, because you cannot do clinical research without a team. You need your data coordinators, you need your nurses, you need the pharmacy, you need the doctor. Like, you need everybody in order to, you know, get the patient across the finish line and to get them into a clinical trial. So there's really no criteria certifications that I think can help. I mean, you can do your research and see what helps, but I do believe some of these stuff, licensures and all that stuff, require like experience. I'm not sure. I do know that I am interested in getting like a CCRC or CCRP, but I don't know if I would want to get it now, because I don't know what the heck I'm doing, y'all. Like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I am like 2 months off of orientation or so like that, and I am still taking it day by day. Clinical research is a whole nother language. And I am still learning day by day. I'm still trying to, you know, get it together. So I do believe that clinical research is a beautiful field. It is amazing. And if you can get in. It is one of the best career choices somebody can make. There is work-life balance for the most part at my job. I believe other clinical research jobs, there can be work-life balance. I think there are like research jobs where you get to travel all over the world to different sites and stuff like that. That is not the job that I have. I don't even think I would want that right now. But that, if that floats your boat, that is great. That is great. I would love to do something like that, but it's not something I want to do right now. But yeah, there are different avenues to clinical research. There's different ways to get in. There's different positions. So I think doing your research to look, okay, what is in clinical research and what are different aspects of clinical research, because it's not just like working as a data coordinator. There's, like I mentioned, regulatory, there's quality, there's different kinds of positions in clinical research. So I think do your research and find out what works for you, okay? I hope that this was helpful. I tried my best, y'all. I really tried my best. I hope this was helpful. And if I come up with more things to discuss, I definitely will do it. I believe in helping, and if it's something that people want to do, why not speak about it so that people can have the opportunities to get into it? So if there's something that that comes to mind, I would definitely speak about it with no issue whatsoever, okay? I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.